world. My name is Kemmy Lawson and I'm on Asia Effiong-Jones show. So I'm a financial consultant, so in the area of protection. So for your protection needs, feel free to call me on 07737 093474 or kemmylawson1@yahoo.co.uk, and I'll be able to set up personalized policies for you and at no extra cost.
Hi, my name is Dolapo Bolumole. I'm on the Asia Effiong-Jones show, and it was an exciting show. I'm a property developer and investor. I've been a property developer for the past 10 years, and I'm interested in anyone who wants to get on the property ladder. So just contact me on d.oni@citygateproperty.com. That's d.oni@citygateproperty.com.
My name's Elizabeth Ayelabola. I'm an entrepreneur and property investor. I had an amazing time today on the show with Asia Effiong-Jones, and I think we're coming back. But any information about property, entrepreneurship, I'm actually wearing my other side business. Shout out to Inquado Fashions and shout out to Heritage Outreach. But great show today and look forward to coming back. Thank you.
I want to talk about self-employment and contractors. Sometimes as a self-employed person you cannot, or it's difficult to like I said, prove your income, particularly self-employed people, and that is sometimes the problem, not even a credit. It's the fact that the way your income looks, you can't really. So what are the ways? Are there lenders who are lending to contractors?
So let me tell you this, because this is it's a big thing, especially when you want to leave your day job. What I advise people to do is you need to have proven income streams, as in have something that shows on you. There's something called SA 302, which is a HMRC document which shows your breakdown of your income. So you have to have 2 years worth of that, or at least 1 year worth of it, to be able to get the most sympathetic lender to lend to you. Do you understand? So you can't just say, oh, I used to have this job and then I stopped this job and then I'm starting property. You'll never get, it's going to be impossible to get lending. What you need to do is to actually make sure that you have whatever your job is, and then start to build whatever it is onto the point where you can prove 2 years, and then you can quit your job, because that happened to me. So, and by the way, SA 302, which is a mandated HMRC document, wasn't always the case. When I started, we could actually just send some random, self-certify, or send some random, a friend has a business, send some invoices and say that you work for this person or whatever to prove income. Now that is completely scrapped. You can't do that. You have to ensure that you have something proven, that your accountant is certifying and actually filing. So it really is a very important thing, because then that pretty much puts you dead in the water. You won't be able to get any credit, and it will make it very difficult for you to be able to grow your business. So I would just suggest that people really do think about their plan before they quit their job.
And I think that's a very interesting point. It leads on nicely to, I guess, in property, like you mentioned at the top of the show, is one avenue where people get excited. Yes, I can do this, and yes, actually anybody can do property, really, but it is really hard in terms of there's a lot you need to put in. And when you go on a lot of these training courses, as people will know, they kind of sell you this idea that you can just literally leave the training course and on a Friday go back to your office on Monday and hand in your notice, right? I'm going to do property and sail off into the sunset. But actually, as Dolapo mentioned, it's a journey, it's a process. So please, 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 the sensible, rational thing is don't quit your day job. You need to establish income. If you're self-employed to a limited company, your company has to have 2 years traded accounts. You have to demonstrate that as an individual starting this process, that you yourself have credibility. So I think that is something, unfortunately, that is still a bit of a hurdle. But there are, you could consider doing a joint venture with somebody, so there are, again, depending on your level of sophistication, there are options available to you. And that's the beauty about property, as Dolapo mentioned. There's a lot of creative thinking that happens. And there are so many options available to you. I would say plug into a local property network as well. There's so many property community meetups. There's so many out there. I'm part of one in Watford, part of property in PIN. Thank you, Property Investment Network.
Yeah.
Shout out to my guys in Watford. So yeah, I mean, PIN has many networking events all over the country. They're not the only ones. There's information available online.
And I was going to do my own plug, which is we have training as well. So because we've been in property for the past 10 years, there's so many loopholes, and things come to you when you start the journey that you didn't anticipate at all, especially when it comes to dealing with mortgages. I promise you, you'll be shocked at how many times mortgage lenders will just dig up new reasons why they can't give you lending, and you'd be like, but this same lender gave me approved a mortgage 2 seasons ago. So what's going on? Their criteria is changing every day. So you really need to be plugged in, as she said, to some kind of network. We have it's called London Short Stays because we specifically target service accommodation as a way to create day-to-day income. So let me tell you some of my history is that when I started this journey, and this is what she was saying about the creative way that property can turn you into, is that I thought what I would do was I would go to auction, buy a property, sell the property, make a profit, and then I'll live on that, which is great, except that when you sell the property, you have a lot of money. But as you know, if you're an investor, you always seem to extend yourself because you always find this great deal. So you're completely broke. For a season.
Being broke.
Exactly. So you're going from highs to lows to high to lows, and it's a very difficult way to live. So it's what you need to do in addition to whatever your capital growth strategy is, which is where you want your income to kind of grow across the years, or you're selling and buying and selling. You need to have something that's giving you income on a day-to-day basis. And I very quickly discovered, because initially when we got in the market, as I said, the market was tough. It was difficult to sell. It was very easy to buy. There were lots of bargains, but impossible to sell. So we had properties sitting around for a year. The first property I paid mortgage for the whole year, and I thought this is ridiculous because I was trying to sell, so I can't have a long-term tenant in there. And this is how I discovered service accommodation, because then I discovered online through Gumtree at the time. At the time, were fantastic for just picking up tenants who wanted to stay in the country for about 2 months, 3 months, and then they would pay over the odds for the same property that somebody was renting for £1,000 a month. They'd be paying about £500, £600 a week. So it wasn't rocket science to know that this is definitely a good way to go. And eventually, doing service accommodation as a rent-to-rent strategy is where I kind of just stumbled upon it, because if you're renting out properties at £1,000 a month, but you're able to short let them or rent them, service accommodation them out at £1,000 a week, then it's okay, I exaggerate a bit on the numbers, but the numbers do work. So you can create, so what we do is we teach people how to do that, how to find people who have property in London that just sit in idle, that you can earn an income, and I guess we're going to come to this later, where we're talking about steps to get on the property ladder that don't necessarily mean that you have to have this massive deposit. Because there's so many ways to do that as well.
So we're going to come to that. So we've got a couple of minutes, about 6 minutes before we go to the news at 7. When we come back, we will be going into more details like help to buy scheme, shared ownership scheme, and all the different schemes that are out there. I have to say though, I'm a little bit, so not that I'm trying to say people shouldn't clean their credit, but I'm just trying to keep it real, okay? Depending on how far some of this goes with some people, it might take a long time. And you kind of you're trying to get your place. You've got the money in terms of you're working, you've got a steady income coming in. You might even be able to have saved or save some money. But to save and then paying off debts, the two might not work to get, debts to then, that might be a longer process. So I guess I'm not trying to look for shortcut ways necessarily. I'm not trying to encourage people not to pay off their debts or whatever. But in reality, is there a way, that your credit doesn't have to be excellent? Maybe it's even 40%. Let's say 100% is what. So a little below average, I'm working on. That you can go out and on the basis of the fact that you've got 5% deposit, you've got and you're first time buyer, you've got steady income that you can prove. Is there a way that you can still be get a good mortgage without paying over the odds for it? That doesn't sound good.
That to you.
Okay.
Because,
Well, so
in my
I-
experience,
so,
I
yeah.
don't have anything positive to say.
Yeah,
about
so
that.
a colleague of mine at the PIN meetings that we held once a month in Watford is a mortgage broker. I was actually having this very conversation with him recently. So his view is this is where you really need to speak to a financial advisor who does property, who has access to the whole market. Because in that case, if you have a deposit, I mean, nobody's saying that you have to not have debts and then get a mortgage. I think most people have debts and get a mortgage. So, and your level of debt isn't the issue, really. It's your servicing the debt and having good credit history and demonstrating that you're not overstretched financially, which is the affordability, that is the issue.
Yeah.
So, again, that's a mindset thing. So the debt is not the problem. Are you servicing the debt? That means, are you making your payments on time?
Yes.
If you're struggling to make your payments, talk to your lender. Are you making overpayments? Can you reduce the payments? And another interesting thing I think around debt is, I guess most people typically have credit card debt. So another very helpful tip, there are lots of offers, like balance, you can transfer your debt into a credit card that will give you 20 months interest-free.
Interest-free.
Yeah, period. So that, and as long as you're disciplined, you can then say, you know what, okay, slap on the wrist, I've been bad, but for the next 20 months, I'm going to then make a payment that will slowly bring this down to zero or down to something manageable. Now, I'm not saying you have to wait 2 years. What I'm saying is, most lenders just want to see good financial habits.
Okay.
Yeah?
I guess when we talk about protecting your income, do you find that debt and credit play a part in protecting your finances and stuff like that?
So when we talk about protecting your income, first of all, what I will say is protection is the bedrock to any investment that we take on. And protecting your income is very key. I say that's a biggest wealthy tool that you need. So we talk about, I always say the goose that lays the eggs. Who do you protect? Do you protect the goose or do you protect the eggs? If you see what I mean. So you protect the goose because your income, that's what you're going to use, to fund other things, your lifestyle and all this investment. So when it comes to protecting your income, I always say, what is it that you can afford? Because with income protection, you get to protect at least 65% of your income. So say your income is about £5,000 a month, and that's going to cost you, I don't know, let's say about £60. You could start with something. So I'll say start with something rather than nothing at all. You can say, okay, we look at your, your income, what your expenses are, your outgoings are, what is left at the end of the month, and you'll say, okay, maybe I can spend £30 or £20 a month, and I can protect less, income, maybe about £2,000 or £1,000, at least it covers my outgoings. So start with something, and then as your income becomes better, then you can always, increase that. But at least it's better to have something than nothing at all.
I think that's just another mindset issue as well. It's not an all or nothing. You can actually start.
You can start with something rather than nothing at all. So that way as well, you're protecting yourself, because that's very key.
Okay, guys, we're almost coming up to the hour for the news. So when we come back, we're going to be talking more around protecting your income. Protecting your income, protecting yourself. Generally, we're going to talk a little bit about shared ownership and what's the other one? Help to Buy scheme. We'll talk a little bit more about that. Time goes so fast, and you think you have enough time, but I don't think we'll have enough time to cover everything. But please do stay tuned. And for those of you joining us on Facebook and Instagram, please share and encourage people to join. And we will be taking questions. We're still taking questions. That number you need again is 07539 968 143. We'll be right back.
The Amiga FM's vision is to re-establish the interest of the Afro-Caribbean and other inner
Well
London
done,
borough
ladies.
communities.
Well done. That's great.
Remember when we were growing up, everyone goes, oh, Madonna. Even after Madonna, even I used to be like, no. It's like when people saw Lupita with her hair and they're like, oh, it's such a... People have been doing that hair since...
Right, so you had that hair in the 80s. Hello.
Absolutely.
You're coming in.
Okay, viewers, welcome back. You are live again with Asia Effiong-Jones, and in the studio with me I have Elizabeth Ayelabola. Ayelabola. I got it. Dolapo, Oni, Bolumole. I don't know. I'm more focused on trying. I'm sorry. I'm just focused on trying.
Ourselves, actually.
Yeah, I'm really just focused on trying not to bite my own tongue. So apologies for that. And then I've got Kemmy Lawson as well in the room.
Hello, everyone.
Okay, so we're back. So before the break, we were talking about, the whole show is talking about roads to financial freedom, financial independence, and we are tackling property investment because that's one of the common ways that we know people tend to want to get on the property ladder and stuff. So the challenges around that. So we've been talking about that. What does it mean when we say we're financially free or we're financially independent? What are we talking about? So we tackle some of that. Our speakers have actually given us some tips about how to clean your credits, where you can go to, like Elizabeth mentioned about Clear Score account, which is free, that you can go to. So they've said so much, my head is so full, I'm going to have to type it down somewhere for you. So you will be able to get most of the information on my Instagram page, Asia Effiong-Jones, once we finish. Now, we were also talking about financial protection. When we've got all this stuff, how do we protect it? Is it even important? Before the break, I mentioned that we're going to talk about shared ownership and help to buy. Just a light touch around help to buy. I've got a question for you ladies, and that is age a factor in mortgage? And I say that because when they do a health check I remember years ago be like, if you were under 30, great, your mortgage lender's dream, because I guess you still got a few good working years, and interestingly, the other day I was talking to somebody and he actually mentioned to me that 40, that's a good age for a mortgage. That's I don't know whether mindset has changed or, the way this is assessed. So is age a factor?
Yeah, age is a factor, especially if it's your own home. So for buy-to-lets, I introduced a client I have who's 77, and she got a buy-to-let on one of her properties. So as age is not a factor per se on the buy-to-let side, but on your own home, then there does come a stage where lenders are a bit more apprehensive about lending as you get older. So you need to consider that as your strategy. You're looking at, okay, how old am I now? Especially if you're married, and when you're thinking of buying your final home, like the home that you kind of want to retire in. You need to be thinking at that sort of age that you need to be to then buy that property, so that lenders don't turn around and say, by the time we add the 25 years to your age, you've just kind of gone over the retirement age, so we won't be able to lend on that. There are different products, so there are 10-year products, there are 15-year products, so there's all of that to consider as well. So the point Elizabeth made about having a good financial advisor and a broker, those guys are your best friend, really.
Absolutely.
If you want to be in property. You need to find one that you can call at any time of the day to ask questions about that. So
absolutely, I think you just encourage a lot of people there with that story of the lady the person who was 77. Current retirement age, I think, is around 67. So if you're 40, you still have a good standard 25 years of a mortgage. Obviously, the more money you have, the better your options. So if you're left an inheritance or something, or if you have access to funds, then that also improves your circumstance. So the creative things you can think about is, even if I don't have a deposit, can my mum lend me some money, my uncle, my aunt, my grandmother? Can I get a family loan in a way that helps me to at least get through the mortgage application process and then pay back that loan? So these are common techniques that people do. So I think it's also to kind of look beyond your situation and really speak to a very good broker who can give you all the options available based on your own individual circumstance. So.
And you touched on something very important, which is succession planning. So you talked about inheritance. So a lot of people that get into property just buy the property.
What's succession planning?
So this is where you just buy, I was explaining that you just buy property, you do well, over the course of your life, but you don't think about how you're going to pass it on to your children. Now what happens is anything that happens, I just came from a client meeting yesterday where they have such a massive portfolio, but without any succession planning, where he's thought through with the tax advisor how he's going to pass on these properties to his family. What then happens is they get struck with inheritance tax, and inheritance tax is 40% of the value of the appreciated value. So imagine some of these guys bought properties in the 1970s, and those properties have then appreciated. They have like millions in assets. Their children are about to inherit. Sometimes, in the end, those children end up fighting over it because they have to either sell off the assets to be able to pay the loan. So your listeners, to pay the tax. So your listeners need to be thinking about, when you're acquiring all these assets, you also need to be thinking about how you're going to pass them on. And for them to know that there's a 7-year rule. So, for instance, if you have a property and you decide, I'm going to pass it on to my child, you need to live for 7 years after you've gifted them that property. So you can gift the property to your children, but then...
Really?
Yes.
So what if
otherwise they get hit?
They're getting it through inheritance where you've died?
Yeah, well, that's unfortunate. Well, that's unfortunate if there wasn't any plan made, because instantly they're hit with the 40% tax. But that could have been avoided if all of this was thought through before they died. So, but well before they died, because what you need to be able to do is to demonstrate that the person has lived for 7 years beyond the time that they gifted you that property, so that there's no tax.
I'll just put my name on it.
But can I just say, you must have a good relationship with whoever you've gifted.
Yes.
Otherwise, you might be homeless very quickly. So make sure they're nice children. Alright?
Well, hopefully.
So the other thing I wanted to ask was around single income. So, I understand the way. Correct me, I could be wrong. Mortgages are worked out is you have to they triple. To get a mortgage, they triple your earnings to get the value of what they can give you. So
the
like
income multiplier.
Yeah, that's it. Okay, I knew somebody to speak my language in the room.
Triple is for couples, and it's times 5 for if you're a single person.
So that was my question. So as a single person that wants to get on a ladder, so let's just say I'm a single mom with an average income of between 30 to 40,000 a year. Do I stand a chance?
Yeah, so you'll have a lender who will look at that circumstance, provided, because remember now, if it's your home, they're going to be doing the stress test, so they're going to be looking at all the different expenses you have. You went to the cinema, they call it, it's almost like a luxury tax. It's almost like, you wanted to have fun, you went to Gauchos, you went to some expensive, it's going to end up costing you, because they're going to deduct that from your income to come up with what your net income is, and then use that to determine how much they will be comfortable to lend to you. But on a general basis, it's normally 5 times your income. So that lender will normally say you're eligible for. So if in that case where you said 30 to 40,000, a lender would be happy to lend about 150,000, to about 200 to that person.
Absolutely.
Provided the rest stacks up as well.
So 100 to 200,000
would be the loan amount, and then the how she was Elizabeth was talking about the 75% versus the 25% that you, well, in this case no, it would be like
5% to 95%.
Yeah, to 95%.
So you need a 5%. So you need a deposit amount, don't you? Which will be a percentage of. So if 100% represents the value of the property or the price of the property, you need 5% deposit your own money. So if it's a £100,000 property, you need to have £5,000 deposit, and then you need to get a loan to the value of £95,000. So I guess what we're saying here, and it raises a very interesting point as well. So, I mean, obviously London prices are very high.
That's what I was about to say. A property for 100, that would be. I can't even. That would be a shoebox.
Exactly. But this is where mindset and limiting beliefs comes in, and this is where network and knowing what you're doing comes in, right? Because if you're on a low income and you live in London, you do not have to invest in London. There are many properties, northwest of England is fantastic right now. Manchester, Liverpool, Blackpool, Warrington, there's so many places, Doncaster even, you know, Crewe, HS2, there's so many, and this is where with property you have to put the work in, you have to understand where the trends are, what lifestyle trends are happening, what economic trends are happening, you know, what are the councils investing in, where's the government, you know, where are they putting money, where are the projects and the infrastructure projects going. So what I'll say to you is, yes, get a good broker, because you can get a mortgage depending on, like, from everything we've said, if you follow those steps, the next question is, okay, if they give me a mortgage of 120,000, well, what can I buy? Well, in London, maybe just a shoebox, but that money can go very far. You can get properties, 70,000 in Manchester, or, you know, even other places where, and as long as you do the calculation and you analyse it to make sure that your cash flow is right, then it's not about the value of the property, it's about what is the cash flow every month.
Okay.
So that's another thing to add to that.
Okay, so that's some really, even I think I need to go and watch over this video again, because that's some pretty interesting stuff.
Very informative.
Okay, so we touched on shared ownership. So let's talk about shared ownership, because shared ownership is something that is very common now. I think you'll be hard pressed to find anyone who's thinking or who's inquired about going into owning their own property who's not been told about shared ownership. What can you say about that? And is there any concerns around shared ownership? Is it a good way to get on? And maybe you explain for those who don't know what shared ownership is.
Do you want me to attempt to tackle this one?
I think so.
Okay. So I think shared ownership is where you have the opportunity to purchase a percentage of the total value of the property. So if the value of the property is represented by 100%, you can actually buy 25% of the property. So again, working with very simple numbers, if it's 100,000, that means you can actually buy up to 25,000 of the property, or 50%, 50,000 of the property. So that allows you to basically have some sort of equity stake in the property at a level where your income your income will allow. So that's the upside. If you have no other choice and you're desperate to get on the property ladder, and again, this is where the whole point about investing in London comes in, because a lot of people who may think, oh, I have a really low income, who live in London, if you go further up in the country, you're actually earning really, really well. It's just property prices in London are super inflated, right? So the thing I would say is shared ownership, just be aware of the fact that you're buying, obviously you're not the only person who owns your house. So if you buy 50%, the other 50% is not yours.
And you have to pay rent on it.
And you pay rent on
So you're
that.
paying 50% mortgage, 50% rent, for example,
In that is,
depending on what shares that you buy.
Exactly.
But you can go on to buy more shares.
shares.
You
and
can
take
buy
on
down.
kind of-
You can
Yeah.
basically buy down the
Okay.
50% that you don't originally own.
Yeah.
So that is.
But that does get tough, especially as you can imagine, property prices are going northwards. Then it becomes even more difficult to claw back on the additional equity.
Because it would be the percentage at the current value, which is always that's the sticking point. It's not 50% of what you bought the house. It's not 60% of 100,000 5 years ago when you bought it. If that property has gone up
to 300,
and with property, it's commonly known that every 10 years property doubles on average. So again, that's 50% of the current value. So I think it is helpful, but I think you just need to do your research and be comfortable that that's kind of the way you want to go. Is what I would say on that. But I'm not an expert in shared ownership, so really speak to.
So again, speak to your broker.
So, and how can people access good brokers? So, I mean, we've mentioned getting a broker, speaking to your broker. How can you access a broker?
A lot of times, if you go to like a well-known estate agency, they'll have a broker attached to them that will say he's an independent broker, which is, it is true. But then it's always good to find out. By the way, there are lots of brokers. There's no short supply of brokers. brokers, where you can find a reputable broker who's referred by a friend or in a property network, as you were saying, that can get access to these products.
Absolutely.
And you can also juggle, by the way, different brokers.
Yeah.
You know, sometimes I do that. You just check to see what the different rates lending products that they have, and you know, and then you pick your you know which works for you.
Yeah.
So
I would add that obviously make sure that they're, you know, regulated,
Yeah,
FCA regulated
of course.
and all that, or whoever, So make sure that's obviously somebody qualified, not just your mate who kind of knows a bit about finance, whatever. And then I think the point about the property networks and the property community is very, very important, because not all brokers are created equal. There are some brokers who don't own property, they don't invest in property. Brokerage is just their day job. So they will give you the textbook, computer says no. But somebody else who's in the property community understands that if this lender says no, there's this other... I mean, the lending market is very competitive.
People to try to... and I think the whole purpose of us doing this was to try and encourage and let people understand that, look, there are little steps you can take towards getting on a property ladder, if that's the course you choose to go on and everything. Elizabeth, you mentioned about how to create, you mentioned about getting into properties without owning one, like there's ways you can do that. And also, I suppose that ties into how to create other streams of income. So I'd really want to hear more about that.
Okay, so very quickly, I think, you know, my own story, I was very much what you would call an accidental landlord. So I bought my first property in my 20s, and I left home, moved somewhere, bought a place, then moved on with work, and then I, you know, had tenants and all of that. So I think there are many people who are accidental landlords who don't set out to be investors. So every landlord is invested in property, but not every property investor. How did I say it earlier? It made sense the first time around.
It's not every property investor.
So
So
not every property investor is a landlord, but every landlord is invested in property. So in property there are two ways essentially. You can either control property or you can own property. So there are, and I'm sure Dolapo will talk more about this, there are many strategies in the controlling section, like rent to rent, the purchase lease options, etc., where you don't own the underlying asset, but you have a contract that says, I can actually then take this property from the landlord and come to an arrangement, you give it to me for 3 to 5 years, and I guarantee you an income, and then I go off and do something else with it to generate cash flow that makes me money, right? So there are many, and that doesn't require you having good credit, it doesn't require you getting a mortgage, it doesn't require you doing any of those things. So I think if anyone's in that situation, you should look at the controlling aspect of things. And then on the property, and also, there's also something called deal sourcing, which is where people actually find deals, but they don't want to actually buy the property themselves. They sell that information or that trade to somebody else. So that's another area. And then obviously with owning property, and actually there is a third way, because you either own property directly or indirectly. So I think this conversation won't be complete if we don't talk about So before you even start saying I want to go off and do property, there are things you should have done, right? So there's your annual ISA allowance, right? You have 20,000 tax-free, and the government says you can save this money tax-free. So I think that's an option that people should look at as well, since we're talking about alternative income streams, because that will allow you to invest in shares, stocks, bonds, which is a different type of asset class. So that you're not all leveraged in one direction, you know. The other thing, so ISAs, I would also say, you know, pensions, if you're of the age where you can contribute into a pension, again, you get tax relief. You can either put all of your income or up to £40,000 a year into a pension scheme. Again, there's been pension reforms. If you're self-employed, the point, as you mentioned earlier, you can actually do the self-invested pension plans now, a SIP. There's a SAS, which is more targeted and more beneficial for property.
And then shares and stocks ISA as well, where you could buy stocks and shares within your ISA portfolio. So the 20,000 you were talking about would go towards buying. So like recently, I bought Rightmove stocks, right, with my ISA allowance. So that goes into there, and all of the gains in the ISA then are tax exempt as well.
So I just wanted to touch on the indirect ways you can invest in property
Without
like
necessarily,
that,
yeah.
and the real estate trusts, investment trusts, etc. So there are options out there, and then obviously owning property is the best, easiest way that people think about getting involved in property and engaging in property, and it's the most exciting way, I think.
It is. So, and this is where what we're talking about, the creative ways properties can generate income. Because I know, as I said, when we first got into it, it was buy and sell. But then for those of your listeners that want to get into property, you need to be able to demonstrate that you can manage property before you can own property. Sometimes, you can just go straight and own, but if you don't have the income, there are other ways to get into property, as she was saying, which is property sourcing. There are different ways. So I have a friend who she didn't necessarily quit her job, but she got pregnant and she was a contractor. And this is a real life experience, example, where she already sort of was interested in property and then started to put out her name, look, I do service accommodation, I could get beautiful properties for you if you're coming on holiday. She now, earns a full income that supports her completely without having to worry about, going back to work. But then guess what? In addition to that, because of the type of clients she met, this is the great thing about having your business, is that you will then meet other people. And so guess what? Some of her clients that used to they would come and stay in like this nice plush areas, say Earl's Court, Kensington. They would turn around and be like, oh, do you know where I could buy property? And guess what? She now has a side business, another side hustle, where she's finding properties and getting, selling properties that are worth like 3 million or whatever, and then getting a percentage of that. So there's property sourcing as well, which is good income. And as long as you put your tentacles out there to say, look, I do property, you can get clientele. Other one is this rent to rent that we talk about. It's a big one, and some people use it as a HMO strategy. HMO meaning house of multiple occupancy, where you have like a 4-bedroom house and you divide it up and you have all the different rooms let out. Say £1,000 a room, as opposed to so you rent it out from the landlord at 3,000, but you can get income of 5,000. Serviced accommodation, you get a nice property, nice area. Obviously, London has a 90-day rule, so you need to work around that as well. So there's even within property, some people have a network of people that do building work. Somebody that does good bathrooms, that does you can contract those people out, and just make a negotiation with them and say, look, for every business I bring you, if you give me 15%, and these guys will do the work and they will happily pay you the 15% because you brought it to them. So that's a different way of making money in this. And then you also can become, so by the way, there's rent to rent and service accommodation, but there's also managing, controlling an existing asset. So say for instance you have a rich uncle that has a random property in Oxford Street and he's not doing anything with that property. You could approach him and over the months convince him to hand over that property to manage, and you turn around and make 20% profit, 20% commission of everybody that stays in that property. That's another way to make money. So there are different strategies that you need to find a rich uncle first. But not even rich uncle. You can put your name out there. Just have a business, and put your name out there, and you can. So.
There's the other streams of income. Are there more other than that?
I do stocks. I've always done stocks.
So
buy good companies.
I mean, to be honest, the other thing that I wanted to sort of mention before we lose track of time is, in all of this, if there's somebody out there who's thinking, oh, I need a university degree to do this, or I need to, you don't need any of that. There's nothing they teach you in school that will help you with wealth education, and that's what this is, financial education. And I think two things that make you successful in property or any other hustle to get to your financial freedom are those two things: wealth education, how to build wealth and how to protect wealth, like we've been talking about, and financial education. So you need to know about tax to a degree, and if you don't know, get a good tax advisor. You need a good accountant. You need a solicitor. So you need a power team basically in your corner. And please, if there's anybody who hasn't read Rich Dad Poor Dad, I mean, it's just the basics. It's like Wealth Education 101.
Napoleon Hill, that's right.
Yes, and The Richest Man in Babylon. I mean, those two books, every successful or even every aspiring to successful property investor I've met will tell you that book had a huge impact or radically changed their minds, because it teaches you the difference between assets and liabilities, and you should spend your time building your asset column. So it's a mindset thing as well.
Do we have time to
Hi, Paula, you are on air. Hello, caller. Hello.
Hello, good afternoon.
Good afternoon.
Yes, I'm listening to your radio program, and I think I have a question for the guest, your speaker.
Okay, fire away.
I'm in London.
Yes, go on. Ask your question.
Hello?
Hello.
Yes, my question is that I'm a nurse.
Okay.
And I just got married, and my worry is about the future of my children. So is there any financial product out there that one can, spend some little money on that in case anything happens to me, my children can still go to school? That is to make money available to my family.
Yes.
Okay.
Okay.
So I think that's the question for you, Kemmy.
Yeah. Hello, hello, sir. Yeah, that's a very good question. The fact that you're even asking that question shows that you're a good man. You care about your family, and you're thinking about, you're thinking about their future. So we have different products out there, So like I was saying, with what sorry. Oh, okay. What my fellow colleagues have been saying, life's events, life happens, everything is going hunky-dory, life can happen. So we need something in place to buffer all these unexpected life events that happens to us. So we have things like, life insurance, we're talking about protection. We talk about the egg that lays the goose. Do you protect the goose or do you protect the eggs? So life insurance is like, what I would say, life insurance is like wearing like a life jacket, and you're thinking, it's a bit of a nuisance, and you think, well, I don't need this. But when you need it, you're grateful that you have it. So in your absence, what you're trying to say is, in my absence, will my family be looked after? What's going to happen to them? So there are things like life insurance. You can take up a policy to put something in place for your children and your dependents, your loved ones. Should the unexpected happen, then that standard of living doesn't drop. They can still carry on. So you have things like, your lifestyle, the school they go to. And we have things about protecting your income. I don't know if you're the main earner in the house. Maybe your wife doesn't work. But we think about things. You're the main earner. Okay, that's good. So if something happened, maybe as a result of an accident or as a result of illness or sickness, what effect is that going to have on your finances and the lifestyle of your family? So that's what we talk about, protecting your income. And that's a big, wealthy tool. So we have different things. And if you're not feeling well, you're seriously ill, and illness doesn't have to be terminal. It can be anything. What effect will that have on your finances and your children, people that look up to you and depend on you? So there are various, products out there, and, that one can put in place for you. And I would say that's why you need like a financial advisor, who can advise you on what right product, take into account.
So, well, you've got a financial consultant here, and if you can, so if you follow me on Asia Effiong-Jones, I will be posting all their details on there, and you'll be able to. Kemmy is a financial advisor, so you will have that. Yeah, so she can give you a one-to-one, and I have to say she's done the same for me. I don't sell what I don't buy, what I can't eat, and she actually helped me with my protection, even my baby's protected. And stuff like that. And it was something, how you get, you see all sorts of adverts about protection, and they always tell you about what's great about them, but you don't have time to read the small print or to know, and for me, it was really good. And that's how Kemmy and I actually connected, because she actually gave me those financial protection advice and signed me up to the policy that I'm on, and I sleep well at night. And I think, Dolapo, you said the same thing. Yeah. So I think, yes.
As well.
So I will say, if you can, my Facebook and my Instagram, or are you on Facebook?
I'm on Facebook, yes.
Okay, so if you drop me a message at Asia Effiong-Jones, EFFIONG Jones, and I will send you all the details that you need.
Okay, thank you very much.
Okay,
well done, sir.
You're welcome, sir.
Yes.
Okay, thank you for your call.
Thank you for your call. Thank you.
Okay, so so that was, we had a caller there asking about protection, and I'm so glad, protection is something that I feel we sometimes we let life get in the way, and we don't give it the attention it needs, and the kind of commitment I made to the protection I have is, listen, even if I don't eat, I'm paying that. And I'm the queen of insurance anyway. I mean, my air fryer is insured, so there you go. So I'm always about stuff like that. So we had a comment on here, cooking ladies, multitasking, but listening, so interesting topic. I've seen a financial advisor recently, and it was 100% good. So so people are taking advice about that. So guys, Facebook, Instagram, please post your questions and your comments, and we're taking that. Soon as we've opened the door into financial protection, I want us to talk a little bit more about that. So I think we started talking about the fact that it is important. It is something that's overlooked. What's the most common misconception that people have about protection? And what are the things, which protections are important? Because for me, death, what's that one? The life
insurance.
That protects you against death, right?
Your absence.
For me, that one's not that important. I don't worry about death as much as I worry about terminal illness and sickness and stuff like that, or mental damage and stuff like that, because when I'm dead, I'm gone, innit, And I genuinely feel there's a more higher risk of falling sick, or falling, do you understand, falling sick in one way or the other than dying.
That's a mindset thing, though, isn't it?
Could be, but I think
on who you're leaving
who's the
behind.
beneficiary?
Exactly.
Not you. Your child, children, family.
yeah, so fine. So I'm not saying it's not important.
Yes.
I've got them all. Well, what I'm saying is,
From your personal,
if I had to pick, let's say I couldn't cover
That's
everything.
selfish.
If I couldn't cover everything, do you understand what I mean? I wouldn't. Well, it's not, because in a way I'm protecting my children. Because if I'm sick and I can't work, then my child. Do you understand what I mean? So my lifestyle, my care doesn't drop. And money helps relieve some of that burden. It's actually easier for them to take care of themselves if I'm just completely gone. It sounds funny, but if I'm here and they have to care for me, it pulls on their time, it puts on their mental emotion, it puts on their resources, everything. So I'm adding to them, as opposed to, if I'm gone, then I'm gone in it, So that's a hard way to look at it. But what I'm saying is, if you can get all of it, get all of it. My point is that, my point is that if I had to choose, let's say I'm trying to cover 4 things or 3 things. Income, if in case I lose my job, because that's so high, that's so unpredictable. Especially if you're a contractor, and then the other one is sickness. Can't work because I'm sick, and all that kind of stuff. So for me, if I can only afford 2, that would be that 2. But obviously if I'm not working anywhere and I needed to do something, then I'll go for the other 2. Does that make sense? Can we come in?
That makes sense, because for everyone is different. So like the guy that just called through now, he's the main earner, and his family, his wife and children, everyone depends on him. So if he were to choose, so we have different level of cover. So we have accidental cover, so that means accident in a car, even at home, anywhere, that covers for you and the children. You have life insurance, which means when you're not here, what happens to your dependents. You have critical illness. Critical doesn't always have to be terminal, but what effect is that going to have on you? And you have protecting your income. So if you're like the main earner and you have people depending on you, and you have to pick from income protection, sickness, accidental, which would be your priority? You see what I mean? So it depends. So someone could go like, oh, I'm the main earner, I'll take income. And then we look again, because budget as well is very key, affordability. And you're thinking, okay, so what if I'm ill? What impact would that have on me as well financially? Oh, I would go for that. Or no, I'll take income, I'll take life insurance, because if anything just happened to me, and we hear cases like that, I was with someone today and she was saying to me, oh, my husband's friend, we were together, last weekend, and, we're at a party, and that was on Saturday. By Friday, he never woke up. So what I'm saying is life happens, we don't have control over what happens to us. And then if you didn't have anything, what's going to happen to, the children, his family, the house? You have things like mortgage cover. So we have different. So what I would say to people is it depends on your budget. Start with something rather than nothing at all. So I always say it's better to have something you don't need than need something you don't have, because you don't know when you're going to need it.
So if we pause for a moment, so you mentioned about mortgage cover. I just
Yes.
want to talk about that a bit, since we've been talking about properties and mortgage so much.
Yes.
What's the mortgage cover? Because that's not the insurance you get on your property, right?
So-
That's
So we're talking about mortgage insurance. So we have mortgage insurance that is tied to critical illness. So you can take a cover to say, if I'm seriously ill, what's going to happen to my mortgage? I can't keep up the repayment. So when that happens, your mortgage gets paid off. Or you can take a mortgage that is tied to life insurance, saying, if anything happens to me today, if I were to die today, what's going to happen to my mortgage?
okay. So are we talking about the kind of sickness we're talking about? Are we talking about terminal sickness or long-term sickness?
A
Or
long-term
are we talking
sickness
about what kind of sickness are we talking
So like
about?
a disability. So say for now you have someone who's, how should I put it, you're a surgeon. So your main tool is your hand.
Okay.
So any kind of, so maybe you had had an accident, and as a result of that, you have a permanent disability that's affected your hand, which is your main tool of income. What effect is that going to have in your income? You can't go out because that's your main tool. So that's serious illness.
The properties are very expensive. Should people consider buying outside London? And I think
Yes.
you said yep.
Big yes.
Yes, big
Do your
yes.
research very well. And if you have to get somebody to do the management of it, you don't have to manage it remotely. If you're far away, you can pay an agent to manage. But do your research.
And for those that actually want to invest in London, you can form property clubs with your friends. Obviously, you have to be quite careful about it. But if there's still some people that, even though it's overheated, the prices are high. Now is not a bad time to buy, to be honest, with all of the Brexit fears. So, for people who want to get on the property ladder in London, they would just pool resources with their friends. So you have 100k, it's not enough to buy much, but okay, I'll add you, not 100k, sorry, maybe about 20. Let's say you have 20,000. You have 4 friends with 20,000. Come together, buy a property, do it up, split it up. So you could make money that way as well, where you would be in London and you wouldn't necessarily need to travel, because do your research, because buying outside London does come with its challenges.
Yes.
It's a remote purchase, so you have to find the right power team remotely. Meaning you need to travel to the place until you get things going, and where maybe you've done one property, you now have your perfect builder, your perfect this, your perfect that. You will need to go and set that up. So you need to make sure it's accessible, maybe an hour and a half outside London.
All right. Any questions?
Hi, caller. You're on air.
Yes, good evening.
Good evening.
I was enjoying your program.
Oh, thank you very much.
Thank you.
Did you have a question?
I have a question for the lady with insurance.
Okay.
Oh, hello there. Yes.
Hello?
Hello, sir.
Yeah, my name is Kayode. I wanted to find out about accidental cover. Do you do accidental cover?
Yes, we do accidental cover. Yes, I do accidental cover. Yes.
Okay, talk me through it.
So when you say accidental cover, what do you have in mind? What do you
If there was an accident and I'm not able to work, what happens?
Oh, okay. So because we have accidental cover and we have sickness cover. So we have, if you have an injury or anything that results as a result of a particular accident, we have products out there for you. I cannot list anything on here now. What I would say is, like Asia said, at the end of the program, if you want to contact me, then I can give you more information,
So how can people reach you, Kemmy, around the...
Oh, okay. I'll give my telephone number. It's 07737 093 474.
I was expecting like an email.
Oh, I know. And then, and then my email,
Go, give the number again.
Yeah, so it's 07737 093 474. I'm not giving, company email, because of, certain policies we're not really allowed to, But if you want to get hold of me, just, get me on that number. It's 07737 093 474. And like Asia said as well, she'll have all the information, at the end of the call, and I'll be happy to talk you through. No cost at all.
Are you on Instagram?
Yes, I am.
Okay, so you can follow me on Asia Effiong-Jones, and I'm going to be posting a lot of the information on there that you need, and also on my Asia Effiong-Jones TV channel. You can do that, okay? And so in case you don't have all of the information here, don't worry, we'll be posting that, and you'll be able to get that, okay? All right.
Thank you,
for
sir.
calling.
Thank you for the call. Listening, you would have heard all of the stuff we've talked about, the content around, how do you get onto the property ladder. If you have any interest in property, we are running an event. It's June 19th, and it's an online event, so it's not like you have to leave your comfortable homes. Just log on, and we will start. It's focused on service accommodation as a way to get into financial independence. However, we will be touching on property generally. So if anybody's interested, they should go to londonshortstays.com. That's where you'll find that's our website. And on there, you'll see sign up for events. And if you just click on that, you'll be taken to where you get more information about it.
Awesome.
And
so that's the event. So how do people reach you if they want to reach you?
So normally it's it's also by email. Yes. So it's normally bookings@londonshortstays.com. So you can just put there, you heard on the radio and you're following up. Yeah. And so Elizabeth, coming to you.
Okay, so I guess, an area that I'm really passionate about is all the things we've been talking about. How do you access property? Do you want to do it directly, indirectly? How do I get access to a power team? So all that stuff about how can I get involved. Quite happy to help you with the little I know. You can contact me on elizabeth@templebricks.co.uk. And you can also find me at the Watford Pin every second Thursday of the month, where we host a property event, networking opportunity, if you like. And please find one local to you, because they are incredibly, incredibly beneficial. And can I also make a recommendation? The Property Hub is a podcast that is absolutely amazing. So if you can download that, that will really help your property education.
Property Hub.
Property education as well. The two Robs, Rob and Rob. Great show.
Awesome.
Thanks.
So, coming over next to me, our financial advisor, Kemmy.
Yeah. Hello, everyone. The area I'm passionate about is protection. Protecting families and individuals. Telling them not to leave their well-being to chance. So there are various products out there, and I'm happy to advise you on, make recommendations, and then you can make informed decisions. The best way to get hold of me, it's Kemmy Lawson1@yahoo.co.uk. For legal reasons, I'm not putting my company name, but Kemmy Lawson1@yahoo.co.uk, and telephone number is 07737 093 474. And if you follow Asia on Instagram as well, she has all the information as to how you can reach me, and I'll be very happy to sit down with you.
Okay, and so and you all know how you can reach me. You can reach me here every Thursday on the drive time 6 till 8. Also, I'm on my Instagram, Asia Effiong-Jones. Effiong is spelled EFFIONG. So you can reach me on there. Also on, we're going to be, this will also be going out on YouTube at some point. So if you follow me on my Instagram or Facebook, you'll be able to get the updates on when this will come out. I'll also be posting further information about what these ladies have shared here today. So coming up right after me is More to Men's show, so guys, stay tuned for that. We're coming up to the hour now, and I just want to say thank you to my special guests, Dolapo, Elizabeth, and Kemmy. This has been awesome. We didn't have enough time, but thank you for your commitment to say you're going to come back again. So, definitely.
Thank you very much for having us.
Yes, it's been great. And just a quick one from my co-host and friend, Madonna.
Take care, everyone.
Okay, so that's Madonna. Next week, we have we're going to be talking my favorite topic, breastfeeding. We're going to be talking about breastfeeding. We're going to be talking about home birthing and birth doula, and I've got two special guests helping me out. So for those of you who might follow her, you might know her, Queens of Hackney. She's a mom and a blogger. She's going to be here with me, and I also have a birth doula who's going to be joining me, and we're going to be chopping things up quite a bit. And men, Don't think you can't join. You can join. You will learn a lot. You know, I promise to be gentle. I promise to be gentle. I promise to be kind. Okay, so I want to thank you all for tuning in today. Like I said, stay tuned. More to Men Speak is going to be coming on after this. Hope you guys are going to have a great weekend, a lovely weekend, an awesome weekend. Hopefully the weather will hold up for us, but even if it doesn't, still go out and do you. Okay, until then, I love you all. Whatever you do, love your family, love each other.
Woo! Well done. Well done, ladies. That was great.